Hi everyone, we focused our research on Cancer Alley in Louisiana and the social, economic and environmental impact that the high levels of industry have on this area. In our team today we have
Amanda? Ben, are you muted? Ben, oh no.
Sorry, Ben.
Carly.
Esha
And Katrina. So first we wanted to identify what the problem was. So Cancer Alley is a place that experiences dangerous emissions from chemical plants, which you can see in the picture behind you here. And those emissions have a negative effect on the community health and economic standing. So Cancer Alley is an 85-mile long strip that runs along the Mississippi River from New Orleans to Baton Rouge. There's a dense concentration of oil refineries and petrochemical plants. It is the second largest producer of petrochemicals and considered one of the most polluted areas in America and the front line for environmental racism. There's a graphic up at the top there that shows some residents basically standing next to a sign that warns you of your risks of getting cancer going through the area. And just to give you a frame of reference for toxicity, people living in Reserve, Louisiana and in St. John the Baptist, which is about a 2 square mile area, have a 50 times and 800 times respectively higher chance of getting cancer compared to the average American. And then here's a graphic of the area. Orange are the industrial sites and lighter blue to darker blue represent the income. Lighter the blue, lower the income.
As previously stated, the rate of cancer in this area is much higher than that in the rest of the nation, which can be seen here from this graph where the darker areas illustrate regions of high rates of cancer. This map shows all of the industrial plants that emit toxic chemicals. As you can see, there are multiple plants that emit more than £1 million per year of toxic chemicals, which is putting all the lives of the residents here at risk. There's actually one woman, and within 10 miles of her house, she has 30 chemical plants.
Sorry. Unmuted, there we go. Why should we care about Cancer Alley? So I've attached this quote from Marvin Gaye, which I thought really summed up the day-to-day problems that residents face. So first of all, we have adverse effects. And because minorities usually have the least amount of resources to protect themselves, they're the most affected by the pollutants that exist in groundwater, soil, the air, etc. And also partly because they have a lack of resources, they also don't tend to have a college degree. And this lack of education can perpetuate the poverty trap. But I want to emphasize that just because they're more prone to being trapped inside this poverty cycle, it does not decrease the validity of their voices. It merely means that they have less flexibility to move away from the harmful chemicals. And lastly, we have morals. So frankly, the oil industry has way too much power and they prioritize profits over people's lives and their vitality as well. So people are dying, but they're also not living healthy lives to begin with. So they're in a lifelong pain.
All right, so how are we going to achieve our goals? So a lot of our goals and what we're trying to do with our project line up with the Sustainable Development Goals. And there are a lot that our project will hit on, but the main three that we identified were no poverty, reduced inequalities, and good health and welfare.
So some of the ways we can achieve these goals are to vote and vote for elected officials that will pass legislation that fights against environmental injustice and protects the environment. We can also continue to pester our elected officials and remind them that we have a voice, you need to listen to us, and if you're not, we're holding you accountable.
And also, two other ways that we're gonna involve the communities to push forward this agenda is through changing the perspectives of people in power, but also involving these communities and students in those communities to push for change. And we wanted to give our project also an economic dimension because most of the times, corporations, what they understand is money, and if something makes financial sense, then maybe they'll do more about it. And so we're trying to partner with companies like, say, asset managers like BlackRock to push these companies forward in making their business practices more sustainable. And so a little bit more on what this looks like. So BlackRock is an asset manager for huge corporations and companies, and some of those work in Cancer Alley in Louisiana. And so what BlackRock has is, since it's such a huge company, it has the fortitude to push these companies and vote on their management if they're not sustainable, push them and, make sure their business practices incorporate sustainable practices as well. And so, partnering with companies like these help accelerate our efforts and help magnify our project.
And then we have the matter of healthcare, or the lack of it. So minorities account for 32% of the total population of Louisiana, and the infrastructure in place has profoundly limited their abilities. So to put the chemical plant proximity into context, they're often no farther than 500 feet from homes, schools, cemeteries, and other public places. And this can result in lung disease, asthma, headaches, vomiting, and cancer, as we saw earlier. And then I found this quote from a stakeholder, a mother who had taken her daughter to the hospital because she was exhibiting symptoms from the harmful pollutants. And the doctor told her, "We can't treat her because we don't want to put Exxon in the paperwork," meaning that they wanted to avoid a lawsuit. And in my data that I found or didn't find, the connections between adverse health effects and the oil companies and the pollutants that they emit is nowhere. I mean, it's amazing the work the oil industry has done to obscure those facts.
Sorry, I forgot I was muted. So here are just some environmental laws that we wanted to talk about. So here are just some key environmental laws that are already in place. Clean Air Act is a major one, Clean Water Act, although we noticed that the Trump administration has appealed the Clean Air Act and put a lot of restrictions on future implementations. A couple others have to just do with land use planning.
Yep, and then just a quick mention of the Green New Deal. It really does encompass all three of these aspects of sustainability that we talked about our first day. Talks a lot about renewable energy, getting living wage jobs for the communities that need them the most, investment of decarbonization, fairness, everything and more. So Green New Deal, really great thing.
So our vision is to create a charity that can help to improve the quality of life of those living in Cancer Alley. And we use a three-pronged approach to provide the technical and financial needs to the residents here. First of all, we'll be using environmental lawyers, and they can battle against some of these issues that we previously discussed. For example, there's cases where they're trying to build new plants, but the residents in Louisiana don't have the financial money to back environmental lawyers to fight against this. There's other issues, such as previously stated, that 500 feet between the residential land and industrial land, and they really want to work to increase that because 500 feet is not far enough.
Thank you, Esther. We are right at time. So 8 minutes goes so quickly. So thank you. We're doing a virtual round of applause for that first group of coding for Cancer Alley. Thank you so much for presenting. Sanjana, who do we have up next?
Hey, yeah, so up next, so there wasn't a team name submitted with this, but we have Shaylin Parker and Barbara Ditra.
Perfect. While they're setting up, I will recommend, as you guys can all see, 8 minutes goes really, really fast. So if you want to adjust in terms of speaking with your teams to focus, use your time wisely, right? We want to know about the problem, but we want to hear more about your solution. So if we can spend more time on your solution and the innovation, that's the way to go. All right.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shaylin. And Barbara and I worked together to create some manufacturing and chemical corporations like accountability and sustainability standards. We were pretty inspired by seeing some of the sustainable development goals, and we thought that we wanted to have something in place for corporations specifically. Yes, you can go to the next slide. Why is this important? Corporations have the economic and manufacturing power to usher in an age of sustainability because they can produce sustainable products, things like that. But at the same time, they also have the power to hinder this age of sustainability because, as was mentioned in the previous presentation, typically the bottom line for corporations is money. So they'll do what's cheapest, which often means emitting a lot of carbon into the air and also pollutants. Next slide. And these are just some examples of all the headlines that you see today about how corporations in particular are so responsible for a lot of the rapid acceleration of climate change. So a solution that we thought of would be a series of standards that we expect corporations to uphold in order to contribute to a sustainable future and in a way, you know, like make up for a lot of the ways they've set us back. We were inspired by the LEED and WELL standards for sustainable buildings. And we wanted to create like a point system so that we could rank these different corporations. Our two main objectives for them were to invest in a sustainable environment, which has to do more with production and chemical processes, what they're releasing into the environment. And then we also wanted them to invest in a sustainable community, which means like they'll commit to environmental justice by providing high-paying, multi-benefit jobs for people in the community where they have these manufacturing or chemical plants. So for the first part, invest in a sustainable environment, we're talking a lot about carbon emissions, toxicity and pollution, and renewables and reusables. First off, with carbon emissions, we want to ask all corporations that decide to adopt these standards to pledge to decrease their emissions. According to some research that a lot of US corporations in particular need to cut their carbon emissions by over 50% in order to prevent a 2 degrees Celsius temperature increase, which is already more than the 1.5 degrees Celsius increase that we wanted to set as our limit. Next slide. Perfect. And then also there's a big issue though with corporations accurately reporting their emissions, especially with scope 3 emissions, which are the emissions that are involved indirectly, essentially when corporations account for what they produce and also what energy they take, but they don't account for how their products were made that they're buying or how someone uses or disposes of their product down the line. So they're not accurately reporting these emissions. In terms of toxicity and pollutants, there are so many unregulated chemicals that the EPA does not have many guidelines for. And so we really want to push corporations to have health and safety testing for all of their chemicals that they use. And we want them to test them down to the parts per billion concentration because we've seen a lot of effects like endocrine disruption, where really small concentrations of particles can have huge health effects on our development and fertility, things like that. And this is something I'll shout out to Dr. Terry Collins, is a professor at Carnegie Mellon. He's the head of our Green Institute. He's so awesome. And he taught a great sustainability course where he talked about how corporations need to emphasize like the decomposition and disposal of products as much as the production. Because right now there's a big imbalance. So then oftentimes we end up with products that release persistent organic pollutants into the water. And you can see in that diagram on the right, these just bioaccumulate up and up and up. And really quickly, if we can push corporations to move to more renewable energy sources and also commits them to recycle and reuse some byproducts and energy, then we think that would make a big impact as well. And to trust corporation reports on this data we're getting, we'd like to have, like within our team working on it, some engineers that are able to analyze their data and confirm its accuracy and understand these reports that the corporations put out.
All right, so we also wanted to invest in a sustainable community, and we would do that by ensuring employee benefits, safe working conditions, and diversity efforts. So for the employee benefits, the first part of it is the salary. So we wanted them to So we want these corporations to be paying their employees a certain amount above like minimum wage, and they would get certain points based off of that. So an example we have here is the Pennsylvania minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, and then like from there 30% above that would be $9.43, $10.15, and $10.88. And currently, according to Glassdoor, for the Mahoopany plant technician, they make $8 to $16 an hour. So depending on that, they would have already fallen on one of these tiers. And then also we would like proper distribution of wages and capping salary for the people higher up in the company. For employee benefits, in other respects, we have healthcare that should be provided to all full-time employees, fresh air, whether it be through windows or breaks to go outside, access to healthy food options for free to employees during work hours, and creating good working conditions will in turn increase worker productivity. So for safe working conditions, we expect the corporations to follow OSHA standards and create limits for chemicals not covered by OSHA, and provide PPE for all employees so that we can limit the exposure to harmful chemicals on the job, which will also put into consideration the long-term health effects of the employees. And then another thing we put down is that for the companies to gauge their workplace quality by having employees fill out anonymous surveys a certain amount of times a year. And then for the diversity efforts, we want to implement trainings and encourage environment for discussing diversity and recruit from a broader geographical area. And then also implement specific diversity positions within HR, such as a diversity and inclusion program manager, and also increasing salary and providing healthcare will ultimately increase diversity because people that like of lower income and things like that will want these benefits. And then, so we also created the tier system, as Shaylin mentioned, and there's 3 tiers for each category worth 1, 2, or 3 points, and each category has a weight attached to it, and then when you multiply the points by the weight of the category, you determine the score. So here's an example. These are the first 4 categories for the environment section. So we have carbon emissions. For example, corporations report carbon emissions with over 20% error compared to our calculations, up to corporations report carbon emissions with under 5% error compared to our calculations, and that would have a weight of 3. So if they successfully report emissions with under 5% error, they would get a total of 9 points. And then here's some more examples of that. And then these are the community ones. And then this is the total points, and we created different tiers for it. And then if a company scores below 70, then they're not certified, and they need to make adjustments in order to reach at least 70 points.
I think we're just about at time. This just goes into the details of how we would do it, but you saw the basic structure of what we want to do and the tier system and everything. So, thank you.
Yay. Thank you, Barbara and Shaylin, so much for this. I love this idea. I sent a link for you guys to check out B Corp, which could be a great partner for a project like this as well. Way to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, amazing. So up next, we have Team Bike Ped. So that's Holly Murphy, Maria Morales, and Catherine Keon. Sorry if I mispronounced your last name, but whoever wants to start the presentation, please go for it.
I will share my screen. All right, let me just put it in presenting mode. Boop. All right.
All right. Hello, everyone. My team and I, called Team Bike Ped, we worked on a project to increase access to usable sidewalks and bike lanes, specifically for low-income communities. My name is Catherine Keon.
I'm Holly.
My name is Maria Morales.
And we're Bike Ped.
All right. Next slide, please.
Can you see it on the what we want?
No, but it's okay. I can go off my own slides. So what we want, our goal here is to connect existing sidewalks, bike paths, and bus routes using sustainable materials, repair unusable sidewalks that are not ADA friendly, and also create new sidewalks where they are not existing with recycled pervious rubber, and to create safe and protected bike lanes. Next slide.
Sorry, it says that is there a reason my sharing is paused? Should I stop sharing and share again?
You can try that. I know Maria also just offered to share her screen as well.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's do that. Let me share my screen. Sorry guys about that. There we go. Hopefully it works.
Okay, I can see it. So why we want it?
Yeah.
Oops.
Okay, so why we want this? We want to promote use of sidewalks. We want people to be able to go from one place to the other without the necessity of having to go in their cars. Also, I've seen a lot of people around my community that have to walk down the street and being exposed to cars, being exposed to accidents. So with something as simple as having sidewalks that can take them to the grocery store or the pharmacy, it can make so much of a difference. Besides, with more people walking on the streets instead of driving, we could see that we could save about 5.5 gigatons of carbon emissions by 2050.
All right, so we wanted to pick a city that would be kind of a good model for maybe implementing a new city plan to be able to revamp sidewalks and to create safe bike lanes, and to also create an app, which we'll talk about later. But the city that we chose is City Heights in San Diego. This is an area that I kind of live by. It's a low-income neighborhood. It's ranked 5th in the city for public transportation use, and it's ranked 8th in the city for pedestrian activity. So when there's a lot of transportation use, there's also going to be a lot of sidewalk use and bike lane use, because people are going to be traveling to and from the buses to their homes, to their work, to the grocery store. And then there was this Circulate SD program that was initially put in place to try to make the city of San Diego better for pedestrians. And they said that these are all the streets, these Vision Zero corridors, which are the most dangerous streets in San Diego. 3 of them are within City Heights. And there was an article that kind of inspired us to do this project, was that even though Black and brown people and Black and Latinx people specifically make up only about 50% of people who use bikes, they're actually, they make up about 90% of people who get tickets for riding their bikes on the sidewalk or like using infrastructure not properly. And this is just because a lot of these areas just don't have bike lanes. So this is actually an environmental justice issue, and it's also a police issue because a lot of these people are getting arrested or getting tickets. So this is a little map that I made with ArcGIS. It just shows some main thoroughfares, shows the city outline of City Heights. It shows some bus stops and some bike routes, but not bike lanes. So this is just the map that we're working with here. Next slide, please. So the first 2 streets that I want to talk about are University Avenue and El Cajon Boulevard that we would be fixing and trying to implement some more infrastructure on. Next slide, please. So University Avenue is definitely the more dangerous of the streets in terms of like pedestrian use. As you can see, there's no protected bike lane, there's no separated bus lane. All of the sidewalks are pretty low and are starting to deteriorate. So this is a really bad area to be able to walk or to ride your bike on, but still there are a number of bus routes on this street, and there's a bunch of businesses where people are supposed to be able to reach through, pedestrian or bicycle transportation, and it's simply just a dangerous area. So what we would recommend for areas like this would be to widen the sidewalks, to create a protected bike lane being a painted area with diagonal lines that would separate the road lanes or like a bus lane from the bike lanes, which actually decreases bike accidents drastically. The second would be El Cajon Boulevard. This boulevard is a little better. As you can see, there is a bus lane that's separated and there is a bike lane that's part of this. But we still would recommend that the bike lane would be protected from the rest of the street, and that we would widen the sidewalks to, again, reduce pedestrian injuries, because this is a really fast street. People drive like 45 miles an hour on there. You're not really going to want to bike right next to the street. Now we're going to talk about transportation in more residential areas, primarily by schools. We're going to be talking about Thorn Avenue, 45th Avenue, Myrtle Avenue, and Fairmount, which surround Clark Middle School as an example. Next slide, please. So Fairmount Avenue is one of the main drags that goes to this neighborhood. And as you can see, there is no bike lane. People can go, the speed limit is still 35 miles an hour, even though it's by a school. It's extremely dangerous for students who are trying to get to school. It's extremely dangerous for everybody. There's a bus stop right here. It's dangerous for people waiting for the bus. Yeah, so what we'd propose here would be some kind of bike path, a protected sidewalk, things like that. For the rest of the streets, I'm not going to get too into those because we're running out of time, but there would be similar infrastructure points that we would make. So like 45th Street is a little smaller. There's not really any room for a bike lane, but definitely there could still be a protected sidewalk because that's on the side where the school is. So kind of the main thing that we can take away from that is there's just not a lot of bicycle or pedestrian infrastructure in areas that are extremely dangerous for people to be walking in. And this affects low-income areas specifically. You know, there are plans in San Diego and there are plans across the country called Vision Zero plans that try to address these issues, but they really don't talk about low income areas specifically. So that's what this plan would be doing. This approach is more localized. It focuses on residential areas as well as main thoroughfares. And what Maria is going to talk about later is it has a sustainability aspect as well as a community connectedness aspect and a technology aspect. So take it away.
And this is just another example of places that this program could benefit: Atlanta and Detroit, which have low-income communities. These are just examples of articles that pinpoint why a lot of these downfalls of these poor infrastructure in Atlanta and Detroit. Next slide.
Oops, sorry.
You're good.
All right. So we're hoping to launch an app, and City Hikes will be the pilot program to do this. So how does it work and what is the timeline? So the timeline to do this is that we will need about 2 months to meet with all the stakeholders, city officials, community, and developers. We will then define the requirements to build this application. We will look into the features and the functions of the app, the things that it would do, and then we will look into developing the application and then launching the pilot program. So this is the process. You have your phone, you take a picture of a place where there's not a sidewalk, but you need to go through there, or you take a picture of a broken sidewalk. You upload the picture, then this picture gets shown into a report in a map. So then this information is able to be used for decision makers such as city officials and community members. Then after we have the information available, we can then try and have approval of funds that then can be used to build rubber sidewalks. So this is a mock-up designs of the applications I made. You can sign up for the application or you can go in as a guest. You will take a picture of, you can see this place is literally down the road of where I live. You can see that the sidewalk stops there, and you can either type the location or use your current location. You can then upload the image and then it will show in a map. There is a sidewalk report. So other of the features we're thinking of adding is that make it easy for people to contact their government officials from the application. Also, we want to be able to report the number of sidewalks in a specific location. So this is a way in which we can quantify and tell officials, hey, all this amount of people in the city of Antioch, Tennessee, need a sidewalk to get to the grocery store. Why don't we do one for them? So it's a matter of quantifying and giving them numbers, so that way we can make these solutions available for people. And then the lastly would be linking into a website for people without access to a fund. And so now let's talk about the sustainable rubber sidewalk. And I'm very excited about this because you can use old tires.
Maria, sorry to interrupt you. We are over time. But I think you have a nice cohort right here of beta testers for BikePed's app when it comes out. So we're really excited for this. Thank you so much for sharing. We do have everybody's information. So just for you guys to know, if you don't get to complete your whole thing, we do, that's why we asked for the submission, and we're definitely going to make sure we look through everything that is submitted. Thank you, Team BikePed. Nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, great work, team. That was awesome. So next up, we have the environmental upfront team with Sabrina, Shiki, and Darsh.
Hi, I'll be sharing the screen. Can you see the screen?
Yep.
Okay. Hi, my name is Darsh.
I'm Sabrina. And I'm Shiki, and our team is coming to you from the traditional territory of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Seneca, Haudenosaunee, and the Mississaugas, colonially known as Toronto and Hamilton in Canada. So we're sharing with you today the Environmental Upfront, which is a platform to increase civic awareness and engagement. Thanks. So what we have identified as a problem is that a lot of environmental justice issues are actually rooted in policy, but for many citizens, engagement in policies is limited to voting and sometimes not even voting. Right, thanks. So younger generations vote less than the average, and a lot of other groups such as low income and underrepresented groups, which include Black, Indigenous people of color, and queer people, often don't have the tools or resources to be going to vote, not to mention other ways of engaging. And then finally, the learning of policies and understanding them in time to engage is often difficult and time consuming. So the House and legislative documents are quite difficult to navigate. The language of the bills are also difficult to interpret in their context. And the news and social media tend to be selective and one-dimensional. So an example is a recent bill in Alberta, the Critical Infrastructure Defense Act. It came to the public attention only when it was about to be passed, and it actually threatens the Indigenous people's right to gather, hunt, and fish. And it was too late by the time the public started advocating. So we hope to bring these types of policies, as well as others, to public attention sooner. So how do we do this? I'll pass it off to Sabrina.
Thanks, Shiki. So our goal is to help people understand better what their representative stands for, and also hopefully increase engagement in policymaking and voting. And we do this by providing a website as an educational tool, where people can access information on policies that's simple to understand and not too time consuming as well. And policies.
So now I'll be talking about the website prototype. So this is one of the prototypes for our website. Our website is designed in such a way that it's easily navigatable by all types of people. And our website would be made in such a way that it can be accessed from areas where there's low network. So we'll be using use of content delivery networks, eliminate web baggage, and advanced cache services, and cut down external scripts. So in our website, we'll be using map features, which lets you choose the region that you want to see the bill is being passed, and what are the opinions of the politicians in that bill. So you can select the site and select the bill in the area of their interest. You can also, for example, you can also move from provincial to federal areas. So the earlier map was of Canada. The next map is of Ontario, as you can see over here. So users can use their region to make them more detailed. So we have used a detailed algorithm to make detailed districts which can be easily navigated using our website. It's an interactive website where you can use our features to navigate all around. You can play around with the different filters which will let you categorize different bills according to environmental, indigenous, wildlife, etc. You can choose a bill. When you choose a bill, it will show a particular map related to that bill. And when you click on a particular region, it will show the politician and their opinions about it. Another thing we thought of was to increase civic engagement, was to create a public opinion forum. Users can submit their opinion about the bill policy and the views of the politician. From this public opinion forum, we also generate a sustainability rating generated. Sustainability rating, which can be seen over here, for example, of Adam, you can see 67%. We also have additional features which tell the details of the politician, region, bill information, vote opinion, contact details. It's an interactive map. We have key features which shows the different parties. We also have information detailing the bills. So bill information and data analysis information. So additional features that we will be adding would be public voting features for bills and approval for elected representatives, detailed bill information, additional resources and data, prompt to reach out to elected officials, info to get engaged with activism groups.
So lastly, we just want to consider how we could actually get this done. So whose help would we actually need to put this in place? And we're thinking, consider taking the not-for-profit route, getting volunteers across communities in Canada, looking at policy experts like university professors who could help with the understanding of policies, and also looking for help from activism groups and lobbyists who have an interest in getting information out to politicians as well. And we also considered what other resources we need to put this in place, because we really just did like the user end consideration, but we would need to consider, also the back end, all of the coding as well. And then also, having like a data analyst and a data researcher and policy experts to help us actually get the information out and updated continuously. Our customer segment, we wanted to focus mainly on Canadians since we're all from Toronto, and also we see that need here as well, and mostly focus on the younger generation, and especially people who are often don't have like the time and resources to really get engaged with politics, and this unfortunately is usually Black, Indigenous, and people of color who don't have that representation. And so it would be a pretty online relationship, hoping to reach out through, newsletters and social media to get the word out about this website, and also using different distribution channels and hopefully optimizing search engines to get our information out as well. And the last thing we considered was what our costs and revenues would be. So overall, we considered the development fee and also how to continuously maintain the website as well. And we found a price about per year of $4,850. And for our revenues, we were hoping to place ads on the website, but also hopefully get donations. And this would hopefully be nonpartisan, so people aren't influenced by considering if it was a partisan issue or not, and community donations, and finally grants from maybe universities or social justice groups as well. Yeah, we're really hoping that this project would be able to get more civic engagement with not only the younger population, but groups that really need to increase the representation within politics and policy making. So thank you.
Woohoo! And that's how it's done in 8 minutes. Well done, team. That was such a beautiful use of the business model as well. So thank you for sharing all the different elements of that with your projects. Way to go. All right, Sanjana, who do we have up next?
Next up, we have Team Green Match with Fatima, Abnash, Doris, Alyssa, and Ruya.
Hi, everyone. Sorry. Just got that. Okay. All right. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Green Match. We're an app focused on connecting volunteers, organizations, and community leaders within the field of environmental justice. Just to really quickly introduce ourselves, my name is Abnash.
My name is Doris.
I'm Elizabeth.
Fatima here.
And we have Ruya.
Okay, I'll just move on. So I'm going to be speaking about which categories Green Match is in and why. So first we have stakeholder engagement. So Green Match prioritizes green grassroots initiatives in communities of Black, Indigenous, and people of color by giving them a platform to find local support. So in this way, we give them the opportunity to rise as equal partners in their respective fields. Next, we have economic and educational inequalities. So many minority-led initiatives fail to find sufficient funding or receive support. So Green Match puts these organizations on the forefront of our platform to find people with similar interests and goals. And we promote diverse activism by targeting underrepresented communities.
So how do we address the challenges faced by minority movements? We've designed an app that follows the familiar swipe left, swipe right function of the dating app Tinder. This way, individuals passionate about environmental justice and are eager to get more involved can find the perfect minority-led initiative.
Green Match is all about helping. We help connect volunteers, communities, and organizations by, most importantly, allowing underrepresented communities who are economically disadvantaged, most impacted, and predominantly people of color, the ability to connect to existing environmental justice organizations and volunteers for support in fundraisers, petitions, or otherwise. Examples of these are innumerable, but to name one, we can look at Old Crow, Yukon, a First Nations community in northern Canada that is undergoing permafrost melting. We're also addressing the challenges of trying to get involved with meaningful projects and connecting volunteers to communities and opportunities to get involved. On the flip side, we're connecting organizations to volunteers as well.
All right, a big component of our app is getting people to use our app. The more people we have on our app, the better job we can do in connecting app users and building those meaningful connections. Our strategy is to first start with a few target regions. We mentioned some communities. This allows us to develop relationships with local groups, focus in on smaller underrepresented communities that are disproportionately bearing the brunt of climate change. We plan on reaching out directly to existing environmental justice organizations in those regions through emails listed on their websites, for example, using social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, to not only advertise on our own social media pages, but to post in Facebook groups relating to volunteering, environmentalism, and environmental justice to really spread the word and build up our presence. Now, when it comes to interacting with users that are already on our app, we're planning on maintaining long-term relationships through, for example, addressing questions and requests for support through our email address, being able to report or flag accounts with problematic content, including an automated chatbot for basic support features, as well as the ability to interact directly with the human, and engaging with prospective and current users on our social media sites.
What do we need? Since this is an app, material resources like buildings won't be needed, which is good for the environment. So let's get down to what we actually need. Human resources. We need community leaders, organizers, a marketing or business team member, a design or art-focused team member as well, and a larger app development team. As we start testing this app with private beta releases, we need target individuals willing to participate. Financially, we will need investors and/or funders willing to invest in our idea and environmental justice startup grants. Because we are in the business of app development, intellectual resources are necessary. These include the code for the app, trademarking our app to protect our intellectual property, and databases with environmental justice organizations and community organizers.
So a little bit more on the human resources side, who will help us. So first we have volunteers and partners who will build our app development team. So that includes the team that we have here today and any student app developers, designers, and activists who are looking for ways to gain experience. Next, we have potential investors that would help us keep our app on platforms like the App Store and to help us maintain the app. And then we would reach out to local organizations that are interested and willing to connect with matches. Finally, we have schools in the area with similar clubs and interests so that we can introduce them to the app to form connections with these students, and these students would be our volunteers.
So how will we sustain the project? The app would be free, so the main source of revenue for the app would be advertisements. And as previously mentioned by Doris, we are relying on grants and investments to build and maintain the app. In the future, as the app grows, we're also considering adding features like subscriptions and transaction fee that would generate recurring revenue stream.
So how we distinguish ourselves, we are more focused and cost specific as compared to GoFundMe or Golden Volunteer opportunities, and we prioritize minority-led initiatives that are focused on solving environmental injustices. And finally, our app operates in a more engaging manner that tailors experiences to individuals and organizers.
So this is how the app would look if you were on your phone. And this is the welcome page. You would select the option that best applies to you. And again, over here. And first, we're going to go through a user experience example for a volunteer. So you would insert some general information and select if you would want us to see, if you want to see organizations based on your location. So you click on the check mark and it takes you to this page. And so you allow or you don't allow, and you put how far you can travel. If you selected no in the previous slide, you would go to this page to enter your interests. And that's all that you need to do to set up your account. Then you go to this page. And this is where you can swipe left or right on different programs, similar to Tinder. And from here, you can also swipe up on the page to go to find more information, or click over here on the profile icon to be taken to your profile, back here to keep swiping, or here to message that specific organization.
So from the user experience perspective, for an organization that would like to set up an account with our app, it pretty much mirrors how it would look for individuals. Next, please. You could just enter your name, your organization's name, description, link to profile, next, next, and areas that your organization specializes in, the age range if applicable, location if desired, and that would be it for setting up the profile for your organization. And this is what an organization would see when looking for volunteers. It's just like a typical Tinder profile look kind of thing. And that is the profile that the organization would see of itself.
Thank you so much for listening, and maybe someday in the future, we'll all be able to green match. Thank you so much.
Woohoo! With 30 seconds left on the clock as well. I'm loving these Tinder for social good directions that we're aiming at over here with the past few projects. Really nice job to that last group as well.
All right, awesome, you guys. So next we have Holistic Environmental Justice Education with Chris, Aaron, Jiawen, Mohammed, and Madeline.
Hi, yeah, I'm gonna share my screen. Cool, so this is us. Oh shoot, not share, present. Okay, I'm also gonna start a timer on this end just so I can stare at it and stay on track. All right, so we are the Holistic Environmental Justice team, and the 5 of us that were working on this project were Aaron and Jiawen, who were PhD students, and then myself and Taha, who are still in undergrad, and then Chris, who graduated from the University of Michigan. So that's all of us, and we all had interest in education. Whoops. So some of the initial things that we had difficulty with were that we all had different interests in the realm of education. So it was really difficult to kind of figure out what our actual final product was going to be, because we just kept going on tangents and we couldn't really pinpoint what we wanted to do. But eventually we also realized that there were a lot of existing resources for classrooms, that like the NAACP, they have tons of resources for actual curriculum, so we didn't want to overlap. So a way that we're differentiating ourselves is linking those resources so that people can still see them, but then asking questions that help people think critically and add a holistic framework to include mental health and advocacy within our module. So we'll kind of talk about our final product later, but those are just some initial challenges. Okay, and so right now, the environmental landscape in terms of education is very much focused on just knowledge of the environment, and doesn't actually include the relationship between people and the planet. And so that was another gap that we're hoping to fill with our environmental justice aspect of all of our modules.
Yeah, so we use the Golden Circle framework to help us hone and specify what our mission is and how we can make that happen. And so our why is to nurture students' understanding within the context of climate justice through a very holistic environmental literacy education. How we're going to do this is by providing accessible and affordable education, specifically targeting students and teachers in minority or lower income communities. And how we're doing that is what we're going to be presenting today. And we've created our first blueprint of our self-guided learning modules. Next one. And we felt like this covered a pretty wide range of topics, but I think it most specifically hits on these 3 SDGs. Quality education, obviously, reduce inequalities, as well as peace, justice, and strong institutions. Our 3 main pillars and how we wanted to frame up our project and what we're presenting out is around these 3. So first and foremost, accessibility and affordability. Given everything that is going on and the situation that we're in, providing these resources that are available to everyone, we felt like was the best route to go. We also wanted to give a focus into mental health and wellness, especially in these times, but also discussing these types of topics can also take a toll on yourself and how you're able to cope with it. And then lastly, as Madeline has mentioned, we feel like we differentiate ourselves by providing a very holistic view and allowing students to find areas of interest that they can pursue a little bit deeper. So now I'm going to pass it off to Jiao Wen. She's going to go over our business canvas model.
With all those goals we want to achieve, here is the project framework we follow to get our module done. As Chris mentioned, we want to have a free accessible learning module to educate anyone who wants to learn more about environmental justice. We first determine our module blueprint and create to-do list. Each of our team member picks the parts he or she interested in and manually transform each part to the free online platform called Thailand LMS. All resources we include in our module can be accessed freely online. So module phase 2 environmental justice activists, teachers, students, and just basically everyone who wants to learn more about environmental justice. We also hope to distribute our module via emails, seminars, and other social medias. We also want to encourage more people from different fields like education, environmental justice organizations, online education platforms to be our future partners. This project is not intended for revenue generation. Fundings could go from grants and it can be used to cover travel fee to connect potential customers and partners, and leftover fundings will eventually integrate into schools. Next slide, please. We start with a self-guided module that cover a wide range of EJ topics to educate people. We work to offer official certification for users also. Our long-term goal is to make sure every school and student can learn more about EJ and use their knowledge to be part of the EJ movement. Every effort will count. Next, I will pass to Madeline to let her present our great learning module.
Yes, so I'm going to transfer tabs now, but yes, I can also send the link for this in the chat after I go through this, but basically you'll be able to have access to this whole online module. And we start off with just like a welcome page, and it has all of our values, our mission, and then little bios about ourselves and fun facts, so you don't just feel like you're getting this information from random people on the internet, even if you are. And then as you go through this module, you'll see here, you can see the overview of all of the topics that we covered. And so we start with educational inequality because before we can talk about environmental education, we do have to address the disparities in our education system today and how they've come to be the way that they are. So Taha created this module just talking about the intersection of education and environmental justice and what that can look like. And then each module is based around these like key points. So we have an introduction, and then we have case studies where people can dive in and feel like they have a little bit more hands-on learning. And then we wrote some critical reflection questions just to help get people's brains working. And then we have activities. Some of them range from like journaling to actually like going outside. I'm in California and the wildfires are really bad, so that would not be me. And then lastly, we have additional resources, which we just can embed videos through this platform, which is really cool. And then later on in another module, Erin had embedded some audio for meditation in the self-care portion. And so these are just kind of examples of things that are on our module. I did want to walk through a couple of the slides. Here we have the food justice one that I worked on, and I was really excited about this just because we volunteer at our local community garden, so it was really close to our heart, and it was really great to kind of reflect on our own experiences as we were making these modules for other people, and we also discovered more resources for ourselves. And then on the next slide, we wanted to, I don't need to show you guys all of this stuff, but the last part is just stress reduction and activism, because it is a very taxing topic and we want people to know that they have time and space to take care of themselves. And then education reform is kind of our ending note, because our long-term vision is to have like institutionalized environmental education at all schools. But right now that's not really possible, just because like local governments are the ones who decide what their public schools have as their curriculum. And so we were like, that's our really long-term goal, but how do we make that a project? And so that's kind of why this module is the way that it is. And then lastly, we have a feedback form that I made to kind of gauge the demographics and age range and like where people are accessing this from. And then we can kind of start to tailor things as we get responses from people. And there's also feedback for just like, did you enjoy this course? Like, what else would you like to see? That kind of thing. So I can definitely send this out if people are interested in actually reading through everything and checking out the resources, because we did find a lot of cool stuff. And apologies if the formatting is a little off. We had some issues with just it cutting off in the middle of paragraphs, but thank you all for listening. And if you have any questions, we can definitely go over those too.
Amazing. This, I want to connect you all with, the UN has a cohort called Global Schools. I'm actually an ambassador for them as well, but they actually connect with K through 12 schools all around the world who are looking for curriculum just like this. So I'm happy to make that connection. Reach out to me after if you'd like that too. And of course, you've been seeing it in the chat. Kudos on getting a whole website and resources, but also integrating mental health into this whole thing too. So you above and beyond. Well done.
Yeah, that was amazing, you guys. Great presentation. So next up, we have Team Grow Hope with James, Madison, Kushbu, and Victoria.
Oh, hey guys, I will be the one sharing the screen. James, whenever you're ready.
Okay, sure. Hi, everybody. So our project is an organization called Grow Hope. I just want to start by introducing ourselves. I'm James. I'm from the University of Toronto.
Hi, I'm Victoria from New York City.
I'm Madison from Richmond, Virginia. And I'm Kushbu from New Jersey.
Okay, so we built this idea based off of one of the environmental justice principles from the First Nation People of Color Environmental Leadership Summit. So this principle really focuses on calling for education of future present and future generations. So Grow Hope is a nonprofit organization that focuses on education. This education is dedicated towards children. And the reason that we want to dedicate this towards children is that because from experience, we know that if we provide this education to children from a young age, then as they grow up, this information really sinks into them and they will really value the environment as they grow up and they'll be better equipped to take action. So here's our mission, vision, and actions. So in short, we want to see a future where marginalized people and environmental entities are no longer being seen as expendable resources. And we wish that through our educational program, we'll be able to educate young leaders that are capable of taking action in environmental protection and justice. So how are we going to accomplish this? We wish to mobilize students and young professionals like everybody here who have a lot of knowledge and a lot of energy and are passionate about engaging with children to provide these environmental educational programs in schools. And our role will be to provide resources that are necessary to make sure that the programs are intellectually stimulating and very physically engaging and very fun for the children to attend.
So what makes us unique? What sets us apart from other programs? We first wanted to see like environmental justice, that's great, but how are we gonna get them to really care about the environment? So that's when we turn to education. Education is a very key role in playing in forming our leaders. So that's why we wanted to focus, especially on the younger kids from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade. So that's what makes us different. We're like, we start very early. But then we also want to stimulate them hope. We don't want to give them like sadness. We don't want to put like videos of the environment like being destroyed and everything. No, we want to give them hope. That's what we stand for. And finally, we want to engage our kids or communities to sort of make a community better, a greener community, by not putting the environment, like helping the environment as an option. No, instead it should be as part of your lifestyle. It should be a part of your life. It's not an option.
Grow Hope will be responsible for creating the curriculum and finding locations for activities, as well as partnering with schools. The volunteers of the college and university chapters will be responsible for conducting the sessions and scheduling, while the school's role is to provide transportation and supervisors, as well as encouraging students throughout the community to participate. Grow Hope will start locally before moving to district DOE and then a national DOE to spread the program.
We offer a variety of activities for students to participate in after school and on weekends, and these include community gardening, thrifting events, cleanups, comparing water samples, webinars, and outdoor exploration. These activities are specifically crafted to connect students to their environment and teach them about environmental issues that face their communities today. And one of our key resources is the EPA, as it has many educational resources, fact sheets, and funding opportunities for us to utilize. And these will help make sure our information methods are accurate and provide a guideline for projects and lesson plans.
Some of our key partners will be the National Wildlife Federation, kidsgarden.org, The Roof is Growing, and of course other interest organizations. Again, I want to emphasize that this is not just a one-job organization, it's all of us. So we wanted to focus in all the organizations sort of working together in helping us bring fun activities for the kids to do.
To engage with the participants and parents, we will use social media like Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, as well as communicating through Gmail and Outlook and communicating with parents. Faculty and staff, as well as webinars, will be used to teach lessons and activities. This program is for students at public and private schools in the cities and communities of all income levels, with the help of local college and university volunteers and organizers to make sessions happen.
For our cost structure, we mostly depend on funding from grants offered by the EPA for environmental education, and we also rely on nearby corporate sponsors, fundraising events, and high school, college, and local volunteers. And when it comes to revenue, we believe that investing in children to have the passion to learn and serve in their communities is enough.
James?
Oh, sorry, but I was muted. So I just want to sort of end off this presentation by talking about how exactly this movement supports environmental justice. So through our research, we found that environmental injustice rather really has two main driving factors. One of the factors is racism and classism, and the other factor is environmental degradation and pollution. So our program really hits both of these factors. First of all, in terms of the environmental factor, we educate children from when they were young by basically immersing them into the environment so they can appreciate it. We put them onto service projects so that they can gain a sense of responsibility for the community, and we also teach them scientific knowledge so that they can better understand how lifestyle choices impact the environment. In terms of addressing systemic racism and classism, we're taking children from different communities to collaborate together, and also taking children on service projects in other communities so that they can better appreciate that cities and communities are very diverse, and be able to better understand other people's lifestyles. And finally, I just want to end off with this quote. It's by Robert Bullitt, the founding father of environmental justice. So this quote says, if we strive to eliminate racism and classism and pollution and environmental degradation, then we're doing what we can to make sure communities are sustainable and livable. It takes a lot of work. It's not a sprint, but it's achievable if we view it as important. So this quote, I really love this quote because it really captures what we're doing with this organization. It's straightforward. It tells you the 2 points that this organization is trying to address: one, racism and classism, and two, pollution and environmental degradation. It really takes a lot of effort to change a whole generation, but we believe that starting education from children is very important in building these beliefs and values. So, which is why we believe our movement will contribute greatly to the environmental justice movement. Thank you so much for listening.
Well done, team. You had 50 seconds left on the clock. Really good job keeping that within time. Did you have something else, James? Okay, great job, team. And I think last but not least, we have one final team to present as well.
Yep, we have team Food Next Door, which is Anna and Janet.
Okay, let me share my screen. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Anna?
She might have just gotten disconnected.
Okay. Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Janet.
Hi, I'm Anna.
And we're proposing a mobile app called Food Next Door, in which we try to redefine fast food. So our app was inspired by the California Assembly Bill 626, also known as the Homemade Food Act. The bill was signed into law by Jerry Brown in 2018, and it went into effect on 2019. The bill basically allowed independent cooks to start small cooking operations from their private home kitchens. To address food safety concerns under the bill, home cooks must also obtain California Food Handler Card Certificate, and their kitchen must pass an on-site inspection to be permitted. Our app was also inspired by the land use pattern of the United States. So in the 1950s, when the suburbanization movement resulted in the formation of suburban sprawl, as a consequence, the US land use pattern today is characterized by low density, exclusive single-family residential neighborhoods, and our land use is also divided by intended use. So if you live in the suburbs, it's unlikely that you live within walking distance to a restaurant or supermarket. And not surprisingly, as we embrace this type of land use pattern, we also embrace an auto-centric lifestyle, which resulted in induced automobile usage. In the context of environmental justice, historic US zoning law also separated neighborhoods based on income and race, and therefore today the amenities and available services differ greatly between a low-income neighborhood versus a high-income neighborhood. As a result of our current land use patterns, it's evident that AB 626 would greatly benefit low-income neighborhoods, as this type of small-scale business model created by the bill would have less startup and operating costs, thus posed less of a financial risk when compared to traditional food retailers. The bill also provides benefit on a neighborhood level as we foster a sense of community, increase access to food. People will also save money on food, and of course, it would also promote economic activities by providing employment opportunities. Now moving on to the specifics of our apps. Our app is a mobile app that identifies local chef in the neighborhood to allow you to easily find home-cooked meals nearby. And we do that by providing low-income neighborhoods with the help of getting AB 626 food license and to start their home businesses. Our app also creates an incentive program for people to pick up and receive their food carbon-free. As previously mentioned, we also foster a sense of community while increasing job opportunities for locals. And additional benefits include encourage healthy living by promoting exercise, as we walk and bike to pick up our food and then walk and bike after the meal. You can also develop a diverse palate by exploring the world through your neighbor's dishes.
And so we wanted to implement our app in close collaboration with the local county office. And since AB 626 requires each California county to opt into the program, we have decided to reach out to each county office by helping chefs by giving them a platform to attract more customers, especially local customers who can serve as consistent business. We also wanted to help the community by creating more local jobs through cooks, bakers' assistants, and delivery people that we call neighbors. And neighbors is our equivalent to delivery drivers, like you would call DoorDash delivery drivers, dashers. And so we also wanted to accept food stamps, and in California, they're called CalFresh. And since the mission of food stamps is to provide food benefits for low-income families and to help them buy healthier ingredients for their meals, the mission of food stamps aligned with our goal to provide better access to healthier and local foods, so that they can eat home-cooked meals made with nutritious ingredients and sincerity while circulating the local economy. We would also work together with an app developer to collaborate to make an app that is easy and simple to allow for chefs and customers to interact. And we also wanted to discuss the environmental impacts of our app. So we wanted to reduce vehicular travel, and since 35% of all trips are under 2 miles, we can reduce the number of trips taken by car and reduce carbon emissions emitted by car. And since there are less cars on the road, it will create safer streets for pedestrians and bikers. And we also wanted to promote healthier living by encouraging walking, biking, and scootering to get to the location of your neighbor to pick up their food and dine in. And after you eat, there are many benefits to doing light exercise after a meal, such as speeding up digestion, controlling blood sugar, and lowering rates of heartburn. And so not only are we able to tackle carbon emissions through the program, but we are also able to create safer neighborhoods and healthier individuals. And so for logistics, through the app, we hope to serve as the medium that can connect cooks with their customer base. And because we want to target the low-income community, we also took into mind that not everyone has access to internet or a smartphone, and so we would help customers interact with their neighbor chefs through text or through phone call. And so we would reach our audience of CalFresh recipients through the mail or through electronic notification, and which we would get from the county programs. And so we also wanted to show our tier-based pricing to encourage sustainable modes of transportation and to support our local cooks. And so on our app, you would enter your location and you would be given a 2-mile radius of the available chefs in your area. And if you were to bike, walk, or scooter to your desired location, you would receive 10% off your total meal and there will be no additional fees. However, if you wanted your food delivered to your house, you would incorporate the use of our neighbor deliveries, and these deliveries will only apply to those within 2 miles of the location because our delivery people will also be walking, biking, and scootering to deliver the food. And the fee will be based on distance, and we limited it to 2 miles because we don't want the food to go cold. And we discourage the use of driving to get to the location, but we also understand that it is in our interest to help our local chefs by bringing in as much business as we can. So there will be no distance limitations to where they can order from if they are driving, but a gas tax will be issued based on distance to deter them from using their cars and to support their local neighborhood chefs. And so if you wanted to reach out to us or get to know us more, these are our contact information. Thank you for listening.
I think you all win for best presentation who got us all hungry. That was amazing. The graphics were beautiful, and I love the reimagination of fast food delivered in a healthy and local way as well. Really nice job. Yes, we're getting so many people hungry in the chat bar. Honestly, everybody, that you all did such an incredible job. You should be really proud of yourselves. In the chat bar, please throw down an exclamation mark if this has been your first hackathon. Yes, so many firsts. Yes. Yeah, me too. So again, we want to thank Earth Hacks team. You guys have been so amazing to making this happen for all of these students. And there's Green Program students, there's future Green Program students, and so many more people who we've never even met before either. So thank you so much for bringing us all together. I did want to share just a few words with you all and how this hackathon kind of just like reminded me of when I started the Green Program as a college student. And hold on one second. Just readjusting the screen here. And yeah, so basically I started the Green Program, I think I told you guys yesterday, as a second-year student at Rutgers University when I was 19 years old. And I remember kind of being in this hackathon type mindset as well, but all the time. So, you know, whether it was going to class and then doing homework until 10, And then a few of my friends and I would meet up at the computer lab from like 10 to 2 or whenever the computer lab would close and the libraries would close. And every night we just kept working and working on what was to become the green program, right? And I know like a common thread that has come up in a few different sessions here and there was the idea of like fear and courage, which is really tied in. You can't talk about climate change and the future of climate change without a sense of that. So I just want to leave you with a few notes too, because whether it was this hackathon, and you know, I remember people coming on yesterday and just being super nervous to just, you know, speak up and turn your camera on, turn your mute off. And that takes courage. And I mentioned in the chat that courage doesn't exist without fear, right? So we need to remember that, and we need to just move on, like, and be able to go into spaces where we are uncomfortable and be okay being uncomfortable. And maybe that's this sense for us to remind us to explore that a little bit more. And there's space for us to learn more about why we're feeling that way too. And I know we had some speakers from Earth Guardians say that as well. And you know, I read this book a few years ago, and it was by an author named Pamela Slim. It was called Body of Work. And she has a title specifically called Surf the Fear. And the title just really resonated with me. And, you know, within the green program and our team and our students' world, we're always working in renewable energy, sustainability, education, international relations, travel, higher ed, you name it. Like, it's a cluster of all these amazing worlds brought together with so much potential. But every day we're constantly bombarded with this concept or underlying concept of fear, concern, fear of climate change, fear of injustice, energy resource depletion, right? Like you all know this. Fear for the millennial generation and centennial generation, the next generations from there too. But at the end of every green program, we always come back knowing that there's this sense of fear is actually always that driving factor that leads our students and keeps us motivated to find solutions for a more sustainable future. Just like what that fear or concern did to make you hit that sign up button, to make you show up and to make you like work overnight from all corners around the world to work on something like this. So keep that, you know, fear in a good way locked in with you, having that sense and being a little bit uncomfortable, but having that motivation to move forward and do something is what we want to hold on to. And I know that green program students consistently decide to surf that fear, right? So there's this whole element of surfing the fear. So I know that over the past decade, we've had the waves of fear and vulnerability, but it's always never been something that my team or our students run away from. Instead, we're like the people who are grabbing the surfboards, running towards the wave when no one else, and while everyone else is running away from that wave. And I see that all within you too, for you all to show up. And there were birthdays supposed to be celebrated yesterday. I'm sure they still were, but birthdays were happening yesterday. And the fact that you all showed up to surf those waves with us is amazing. And to be honest, we're always going to crash and fall from times like here and there. But, you know, if you look back and think about all the times you got back up and you're able to paddle forward again into the next wave, into the next wave, and the next wave, these are all these practices that are making you the best surfer possible for the waves to come. So I'll say personally too, you know, these are some of the best lessons learned that I personally would never have the chance to experience anywhere else. And I'm really glad to be able to experience these all with you too. So thank you all for joining us. What we want to encourage you from this hackathon is that you're taking knowledge from each other, from everyone around the world, from your professors, from the people you interact with every day, your elders. You're turning those into action steps. You're turning that into strategy, turn the strategy into collaboration, into success, right, for a better future. So every day, just remember, these are my last words that I'll say right now, but we have that option to ride or crash the wave. And the best part is the decision is ultimately ours to make. So I'm really proud to be able to work with all of you and the future Greenies to be able to, you know, be able to explore more of these solutions. Again, this isn't going to happen overnight, but I know that we can't do it ourselves, and it takes a global cohort like this to be able to continue doing this. So thank you guys all, you know, for like surfing that wave with us, joining us this weekend. If you are interested in doing more of this type of work, please consider looking more into the green program. We have more days than just 2 days involved, but you get to do it, you know, in person when it is safe to travel again. And being able to take this type of essence with a global cohort and really put your minds to work with even more facilitation as well, and hands on the ground, and local knowledge too. So please, yeah, learn more about us. Feel free to reach out to our team. Thank you so much for joining us all as well. We'll send out more information, and you'll all have a program recap after this too. But thank you all. You're all amazing and inspire us every single day. So thanks.
Thank you so much for this.
Thank you, Fatima. It was great having you.
Thank you guys. It's so great to see you. Before everyone hops off, I have one like very quick request that I'd like to do. If everyone could like turn on their camera for a minute, if they're comfortable, I want to take a screenshot of like the whole Zoom screen so that we can like, and everyone can do like a fun face, or they can be serious, or they can give like thumbs up or peace signs or whatever. But I thought it would be really cool to just kind of, since we can't take a picture together, have some kind of memory that we can all, you know, post on our Instagrams and tag each other. So I'll give everyone like a couple more minutes. So if they're comfortable, you can turn your cameras on. And I'm going to take a couple of screenshots. Feel free to do this from your screen as well, because I know that like configurations are different. But here we go. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Screenshot. Okay, great. I'm going to take one more because there's 2 pages of people for me, and I don't want to leave anyone out. So ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Amazing. All right, I got it. Thank you guys so much for indulging me, and thank you for joining. I'm so excited to see how many people joined for their very first hackathon. We'd love to see you at more hackathons in the future. And so like Melissa said, we're going to be sending out more information and stuff, but all of our hackathons are always free for students. We'd love for you to attend, and the hackers really make the hackathon. This was like one of the most fun ones we have ever done, I think. And so we would love to see you guys bring your energy, your talents, and your enthusiasm to some of our future ones, including actually we have one coming up in like literally 2 weeks. So if you have a project that you want to keep working on, if you want to make some new friends, if you want to like show off your chops and everything that you learned at this hackathon, please feel free to come. Just a couple more logistical things before we let you all go and rest after this amazing weekend. So we'll be sending out announcements on judging and the winners via email next weekend, along with the event recap that Melissa mentioned. And there's also lots of opportunities to connect with social media and everything. I noticed that actually not a lot of people were in this channel, but on the Slack, and this Slack space is going to remain open so you can keep using it. There's a channel called Social Sharing, if you search for it. And there's information with all of the Green Program's social media info, Earth Hack's social media info, and sponsor social media info. And I'd like to encourage you, if you're comfortable, to put yours in there too, so that everyone can follow each other. So with that, I'm going to stop talking. Thank you guys so much for everything. We loved having you. Have a great weekend, and we hope to see you again soon.
Congratulations. You're all amazing. See you all soon.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.